Dred Scott v. Sandford, the Supreme Court's worst decision? What if a single Supreme Court ruling helped push the United States into civil war? In 1857, the Supreme Court made a decision so controversial, so devastating, that many historians call it the worst ruling in U.S. history. This is the story of Dred Scott v. Sandford, the case that said black Americans could never be U.S. citizens, and why it backfired horribly. Let's break it down in 3 minutes. Dred Scott was an enslaved man, born in Virginia. His owner moved him to Illinois and Wisconsin, where slavery was illegal. After years of living in free territory, Scott argued that he should be a free man. So he did something almost unheard of at the time. He sued for his freedom. At first, Dred Scott actually won his case in a lower court. But after years of appeals, it finally reached the U.S. Supreme Court in 1857. The nation was already deeply divided over slavery, and people were watching this case closely. Would the Supreme Court side with Scott and say enslaved people could become free in certain states? Or would they strengthen the power of slaveholders? The decision? A disaster. Chief Justice Roger Taney and the Supreme Court ruled against Dred Scott. But they didn't just rule against him, they went much further. The court declared that 1. Black Americans, whether free or enslaved, could never be U.S. citizens. 2. The federal government had no right to ban slavery in U.S. territories. 3. The Missouri Compromise, which had limited slavery in certain areas, was unconstitutional. This meant Dred Scott wasn't just denied freedom, it meant slavery could spread anywhere in the country. This ruling outraged the North and delighted the South. Abolitionists saw it as proof that the government was controlled by slaveholders. The decision pushed the country closer to civil war, and just 4 years later, the war began. Fast forward to 1868. After the Civil War, the U.S. passed the 14th Amendment, which officially overturned the Dred Scott decision. It granted citizenship to all people born in the U.S., including formerly enslaved individuals. Dred Scott never got justice. He died just a year after the Supreme Court's ruling. But his case remains a reminder of how the Supreme Court can get it wrong, and how bad decisions can shape history. It also raises an important question. If the Supreme Court could make such a terrible ruling in 1857, could it happen again? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this episode of History on Trial, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more legal history made simple.